public goods for an inclusive and harmonious world. I'll just start by introducing my co-host that you are seeing in the left side of stage. Ms. Naila Chowdhury is a global peace builder, international strategist, and SDG ambassador with 28 years of leadership experience in women empowerment in public, private, and non-profit sector. She worked at the Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus for 17 years, economically empowering and leading 12 million women. As global advisor of Cure Violence Global and chairwoman for empowerment, her core area is work to create awareness globally on human rights, human trafficking, and domestic violence, to empowerment and give sustainability to survivors to be included with dignity in the society. Her goal is to leave behind a better, sustainable, inclusive world for the next generation, leaving no one behind by being the source of change.
Thank you, Pedro. With deep gratitude to Mata Amrita Nandamai, I'm blessed to be here today. Let me introduce my co-host, Pedro Boca. He's an international advocacy advisor for the Brazilian Association of NGOs, EBON, and global co-chair of the CSO Partnership for Effectiveness in Development, CPDE. He's also Masters of International Relations and a long history of work with social movement in Brazil and Latin America. He is actually the light because he is the host to be for 2024 of C20 in Brazil.
Thank you, Naila. Thank you, everyone. So we're just gonna be up to speed. We have very good panelists on this session. So as a reminder, this is session 3, Global Public Goods for an Inclusive and Harmonious World. This panel, this session, is about highlighting the importance of shared values and the concept of the world as one family. And this team is explored the provision of global public goods that promote inclusivity and harmony. This session will emphasize cooperation and collaboration among nations to address global challenges and foster a more equitable and interconnected world. This panel is about 4 of the 16 working groups that we had in the C20 process in India, very rich working groups, as you know. Many of you are part of these working groups, and thank you for that too. So this panel is about 4 of these working groups. The working group Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that means word is one family. I hope I pronounced it right. Sorry if I don't. It's also about the working group 7, Preservation and Conservation of Traditional Arts, Crafts and Culture, Traditional and Innovative Ways of Livelihood and Employment. Also, working group 10, SUA, Sense of Service, Philanthropy and Voluntarism, and working group 8, Human Rights as Human Values. So thank you very much for being here, and we hope we have a great session. Naila.
So when we talk about one earth, one family, one future, I can't help but share Mata Amrita Nandamai's quote, which says that love, when defined, is compassion, and compassion is accepting others' needs and sorrow as your own. When you say that, it spells out the essence of unity, the essence of inclusiveness, the essence of not leaving anyone behind. Our next speaker, we come to think she does some amazing work with aging population. But before I go to her, I can't help but share that when I was 12 years old, I had come to Jaipur with my parents, and here I come today with the blessings of Mata Amrita Nandamai after years. And I had an incident after I came here. My mother passed away after 6 months at the age of 42. And I felt, I don't think I can come to Jaipur anymore. But with the love of Mata Amrita Nandamai, I'm back in the town in C20 platform, and I'm grateful to be here. Going to our distinguished speaker, I salute you, Suraya, because what you do is amazing. taking care of your mother. You're the caregiver of your mother. So it's amazing. And this is what we need for a sustainable world. So to introduce her a bit, D.Y. Suharia is the Regional Director of Alzheimer's Disease International, ADI, Asia Pacific region, and founder of Alzheimer's Indonesia, an NGO that aims to improve quality of life of people with dementia and family caregivers. Previously, she has worked as a health communication consultant with the World Bank, WHO, and UNICEF. DY was the Values 20 Task Force leader and has been recognized as one of the Aging Asia Global Aging Influencers. Wow, that deserves a clap. And as one of the WHO UN Decade Healthy Aging 50 leaders to transform the world to be a better place to grow older, and that is what the world needs. The floor is yours, Suraya.
Thank you, Naila. There's a video before my presentation.
D.Y. Suharia is the founder of Alzheimer's Indonesia and the regional director of Alzheimer's Disease International for the Asia-Pacific region. When her mother was diagnosed with dementia, Suharia became her caregiver. Today, she's raising awareness for dementia and improving quality of life for both patients and their caregivers. Tonight, Suharia shares her brief but spectacular take on memory loss and healthy aging.
My mom's favorite song is "You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine. You make me happy when sky is gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away." My mom was diagnosed with dementia, but whenever we sang that song, she will clap her hands, her body will move, and she's alive. I grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm the youngest in the family, and I have a very strong bonding with my mom. When my mom was diagnosed with dementia, my dad called me. I was pursuing my PhD in Australia, and I had to choose between pursuing a PhD or my mom. I went back home. I became a full-time caregiver. I felt so lucky to have the opportunity to take care of her before she passed away. I think it was an early grieving without knowing that that's grieving. The misconception is dementia is a normal part of aging. It is not a normal part of aging at all. Dementia is a neurodegenerative disease affecting memory, executive decision, and other brain function. There is no cure yet. So we need to focus on providing high quality care. When I've decided to take up the role as a caregiver in my family together with my dad, it's a full-time job that's affecting not only the person with dementia, but also the entire family. Burnout is one of the highest problem on caregivers, which led me to establish Alzheimer's Indonesia. Alzheimer's Indonesia aims to improve quality life of people with dementia and family caregivers. The focus is on living positively, not focusing on what they cannot do, but focusing on what they can do. Involve them, ask them to participate, be a part of a community. I'd like to see a dementia-friendly and aging-friendly society. I think people in general might think that being old is frail, weak, isolated, lonely, but at the end of the day, it's just a mindset. I don't think of growing old. I think of evolving. I think of contributing. And I thank my mom for giving me this opportunity through her disease to help other families so they can navigate their journey of caring. My name is D.Y. Suharia, and this is my brief but spectacular take on memory loss and healthy aging. Thank you. Namaste. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to be here at the Civil 20 Summit in Jaipur, India, thanking God for the love and guidance that lead me to this path to meet you all. Forever grateful. I'd like to acknowledge and thank you, my supporters, my champions, and friends that have always been committed on this. Latin Jacqueline Wong, Narendra from India, my friend Bini Bukhori, Jyotsna Mohan, Sherpa C20, Vijay Nambiar, and my new friend, Dr. Priya Nair, Padmini as well, and Nindi Goyal, and of course, the chair C20, Ama. Thank you. According to WHO, 2 out of 3 people are going to be a carer or somebody who received care. I experienced that for 10 years in choosing between finishing up my PhD or going back to Indonesia from Australia. I spent 10 years in the States and 5 years in Australia, and I finally understand that God had a bigger plan for me that lead me to meet you all. Alzheimer's Indonesia lead me to Alzheimer's Disease International, the federation of more than 100 associations around the world, including India. We represent our members at the WHO, the UN, OECD, and other global and regional bodies. In September, you can also volunteer and be a part of the World Alzheimer's Month, and we also produce World Alzheimer's Report on risk reduction. Our vision is in prevention, care, and inclusion today and cure tomorrow. The global impact of dementia, approximately around 55 million people with dementia around the world, and it will be 139 million in 2050. Alzheimer's Disease International estimates 75% of people with dementia are not diagnosed. My mom showed symptoms of dementia, a neurodegenerative disease affecting memory, executive decision, and emotion, 20 years before she was diagnosed. One person with dementia affecting the entire family. I did not know at that time that there's a bigger cause, but I just basically became a caregiver for her. This path led me to be a part of this journey. 85% of people living with dementia are not accessing post-diagnostic support, and 62% of healthcare practitioners believe that dementia is a normal part of aging. It's not. So by 2017, nearing 200 member states in Geneva adopted the WHO Global Dementia Action Plan as a public health priority, awareness, friendliness, risk reduction, dementia diagnosis, treatment, care, and support for dementia carers through training, information system, and research and innovation. In relation to our topic on global public goods and inclusive society, the keywords I'd like to share are shared values, one earth, one family, and one future, in collaboration to foster a more interconnected world. What is global public goods? Those that benefits affect all citizens of the world. In this case, it's related to public goods, environment, culture, technology, education, as we heard earlier from earlier speakers, is power. Knowledge is power. I did not know that that was dementia 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It created chaos in the family. But once I knew, there are ways to navigate the journey of caring. And I really would like to thank my mom and my dad. My dad is still alive. He's 94 years old and have been my source of inspiration. So dementia has a wide-reaching impact. The impact to the caregiver, to the family, to the society. It affects health and well-being. I'm really honored to be part of the Values 20 last year in the Task Force of Well-being. We want to improve quality life of people with dementia, and our quality life has to also be good. In India, now, there are 8 million people living with dementia based on our data from our member, the national body of ARTSI, that's based in Delhi. But in 2015, 58% of all people with dementia live in lower middle income country. It rose to 68% in 2050. This was data in 2020, and it was projected on 7.61 million people with dementia in India by 2030. It's not even 2030 now, and 14 million by 2050. Only 10% of people with dementia receive only diagnosis, treatment, and care. This was one of the things that we do on advocacy. In 2018, our member in India submitted the Dementia National Plan. Unfortunately, it has not been officially launched by the government. And in terms of inclusion, social inclusion is a process by which efforts are made to ensure equal opportunities for all, so everyone achieve their highest potentials in life. Nothing about us without us. Involve people with dementia, involve caregivers in decision-making. We hear that all the time in all working groups as well, because that's how you do it, through person-centered care. These are examples of inclusive society on public spaces, example in Japan, in Canada, a garden resource center therapy in Singapore, and a village in France. The global impact of dementia in terms of numbers, it reached $1.3 trillion and $2.8 trillion forecasted by 2030. In terms of the next steps on employment law, long-term care, bilateral agreements, employment law remains a key area where policy leadership is required. Caregivers must be supported to remain in work, focusing on adaptation to the workplace and reappraise existing labor laws. Advances in diagnostic means that those people living with dementia who do receive a diagnosis are being diagnosed earlier, increasingly in their 40s and 50s. Accordingly, it is fundamental that we look at new and innovative ways to ensure that those people living with dementia remain in employment, as example in Japan. Toyota Japan, there was somebody in Toyota Japan that actually was diagnosed with dementia, and now he remains working. And not only this, inclusive research, inclusive societies must also place a greater focus on research. We can only create a dementia-inclusive society if we are truly inclusive of all those encompassed. More research must be conducted on local and community healthcare and can take proactive steps in providing care at home. The key words, again, is empowerment and engagement. We all have potential that needs to be activated in our journey. So these are the points and the steps related to inclusive research, new treatments, and treatment and costs. At the end of the day, why are we all here? To voice our concern through the 16 working groups. I will always be forever the advocate for my mom and the advocate for older persons. I'm 51 years old at the moment, and I'd like to make sure when I grow old, the society, the system are all prepared. And the call to action for G20 leaders is to make dementia a public health priority, to have access to diagnosis, treatment, and care for everyone. Because knowledge is power, training is important, equipping family members on why and how they can navigate on the process, on activity, daily living, and all that, and social security as well. So people living with dementia, carers, dementia is also an invisible disability, cross-cutting with health, holistic working group as well. Family members and wider society must be better supported, achieving an inclusive society. Dementia was included in the G7 communique this year. It was included in the G20 communique in 2019 Japan, and we asked that dementia is included in the C20 and G20 in Brazil to ensure that dementia remains a global public health priority. A call to action for G20 leaders to allocate and contribute budget and political will to all the themes we have all been voicing for all these months as India as the host of the C20 and G20 this year. And in the spirit of Vasudeva Kutumbaikan. the collective efforts aiming for the improvement of quality life for all. One Earth, one family, one future. In the spirit of each of us being the light that shines forever. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, DY, for your powerful presentation. I think that impacted all of us. Our next speaker, it's unfortunately not here, but I will introduce him anyway, is Dr. Mark Sussman, CEO of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that are leading the organization in its mission to improve global health and productivity for all individuals. He joined the institution in 2007 and played a crucial role in establishing foundation offices across India, China, Africa, and Europe, and also managing relationships with various stakeholders. Dr. Sussman's upbringing in the apartheid South Africa fueled his commitment to tackling injustice and inequality. He has a career that began in journalism, covering international trade policy, welfare reform, and political issues like the Nelson Mandela election in 1994. He later joined the United Nations and contributed directly to the implementation of the Millennium Development Goals. So Dr. Mark Sussman is unfortunately not here, but he sent us his presentation on a video that we're going to play right now. Thank you.
Honored guests, it is a great privilege to address this esteemed audience on the transformative power of digital technology. New and improved digital tools from national ID systems to data exchange platforms and payment systems have revolutionized everything, from the way citizens access government services to the way farmers buy seed or parents pay for their children's school fees. Taken together, this digital public infrastructure, or DPI, can be a powerful catalyst for global progress. That's why it's so critical that as the world continues down this path of digital innovation, we ensure that new systems are designed to be inclusive, interoperable, and can reach the most vulnerable, especially people with low incomes, women, and those who live in rural areas. Perhaps nowhere was the power of effective digital public infrastructure more apparent than during the COVID-19 pandemic. More than 1.3 billion people worldwide received some kind of emergency payment during the pandemic, a scale that would have been impossible without digital technology. Thanks to India's smart investments in DPI, especially UPI and Aadhaar, the government was able to digitally transfer emergency payments to 300 million people, including 200 million women, in the weeks immediately following the first COVID-19 lockdown. Of course, India used DPI for much more than just emergency payments. During the pandemic, India designed platforms with local context and user needs in mind, like CoVIN, the backbone of India's vaccination program. And just this year, India announced it is digitizing its universal immunization program, the world's largest routine immunization effort. The new UVIN portal will include records of all vaccinations of pregnant women and newborns, remind people of their upcoming shots, and automatically follow up on dropouts. We know it's unlikely that COVID-19 will be the last pandemic. But with digital tools that help countries optimize health systems, engage in disease surveillance, and track immunizations, we have more tools than ever before to tackle future outbreaks and prevent them from becoming global health emergencies. Digital technology has also enabled millions of previously unbanked people to access financial services, making them more likely to save, start businesses, and secure their financial futures. India has been a global leader on financial inclusion. The proportion of adults in India with a digital bank account expanded from 35% in 2011 to 78% just 10 years later. Women's account ownership increased even faster. As of 2021, there was no longer any gender gap in account ownership in India. According to the Bank of International Settlements, if India's digital public infrastructure had not been in place, it would have taken 47 years to reach this level of financial inclusion. Instead, it took just 7. Finally, investments in digital innovation can be a powerful tool for climate resilience, especially for smallholder farmers. Digital agriculture can strengthen food and nutrition security and help foster greater collaboration between businesses and farmers to improve yields and grow the economy. The scale and speed of India's digital transformation are nothing short of inspiring, especially when you remember that behind every new account is an individual with aspirations for their future, someone who now has a powerful tool to unlock opportunity and reach their full potential. That's exactly why our foundation has invested in financial inclusion for nearly 20 years. When people have access to digital financial services, they can build security and prosperity for themselves, their families, and their communities. Right now, we're at the halfway point to the Sustainable Development Goals, promises made by every country on Earth to their citizens. The world still has a long way to go to reach the ambitious targets it set. But smart investments in tools like digital public infrastructure can transform people's lives and ensure no one gets left behind because of who they are or where they happen to be born. To get there, the world needs a collective, collaborative approach, and we must ensure that financing and accountability are not just limited to governments and philanthropies. We all have a part to play to speed up structural reform and encourage new commitments to digital innovation. We can all learn from India's progress, and India in turn can share its knowledge and expertise with other nations, collaborating to ensure the greatest possible global impact. On behalf of the entire Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we commend the Indian government for its leadership in creating a digital future that includes everyone. It is a privilege to be your partner on this journey, and we look forward to working with you and the G20 to make it a reality. Thank you.
That was a very interesting experience sharing by Dr. Mark Suzman. Thank you very much. We move on to our distinguished speaker, His Excellency, Ambassador Abhay Thakur. Ambassador Abhay Thakur is Additional Secretary of SUS Sherpa of G20 India. He joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1992. Sri Abhay Thakur was served in various capacities in the Indian missions abroad in Moscow, London, Tel Aviv, Ho Chi Minh City, and as High Commissioner of India to Mauritius and High Commissioner of India to Nigeria, with concurrent accreditation to Benin, Chad, ECOWAS, ECOWAS Commission at the Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi. He worked as Director in External Affairs, Minister's Office, and as Joint Secretary as well. It is such a privilege. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Respected Amma, she's blessing us from within these premises. My deepest regards to her. The Amrita Foundation, Ambassador Vijay Nambiar, C20 Sherpa, distinguished guests, my fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar, very good afternoon to all of you. I am truly privileged to join my fellow panelists today on this very important discussion and deliberations on global public goods. I thank the Civil 20 team for this opportunity to share India's priorities and thinking, and also try and dwell upon some of the synergies that can be brought about as a result of today's very important discussion on global public goods. In my remarks, I will try to outline first our view and our perception of what are global public goods, how the Indian G20 presidency has focused upon them, and then try and present one of the priorities in some detail and try and come out with some conclusions and where do we go from these deliberations forward. So first of all, global public goods transcend national geographic boundaries. By definition, they are goods consumed in common. One individual's consumption of such goods causes no deduction from any other individual's consumption of the same. And nobody can be excluded from consuming a global public good. They serve as common assets for humanity's benefit. And I'm defining some of these points because I think they have a very important and very significant bearing on the way we think about G20, about Civil 20, and a number of international interactions. Some examples of global public goods are environment. We all benefit from the environment. We can't be excluded from harnessing or benefiting from it. Yet, we have to all therefore come together and preserve it. Natural resources, technology, knowledge and expertise, culture, as well as peace and harmony are some examples of global public good. The main point that I would like to make to this audience and panelists today is that the Indian G20 presidency has brought a real and unprecedented focus on promoting global public goods through our priorities, our agenda, our deliberations, and our desired outcomes. Let me try and explain how. The key pillars of our G20 priorities are green development and life, accelerated, inclusive, and resilient growth, technological transformation and DPIs, accelerating progress on SDGs, women-led development, and multilateral institutions for the 21st century. Now, when we talk about green development agenda, what we are driving at is that economic development and climate action must go hand in hand. In today's age, in today's day and age, we can no longer conceive of economic growth that is not green, nor can we think of green transition that does not promote growth. Growth and green transition should be two sides of the same coin. Climate action and progress on SDGs must go together. Countries should not have to choose between fighting poverty and fighting for our planet. We must grow sustainably and speedily. And for this, we need to produce and consume responsibly which is why Prime Minister's initiative of Lifestyle for Environment is key to achieving our growth and climate objectives together. And so everything that is needed for it, be it enhanced climate finance or technological collaborations that are critical enablers for meaningful climate action and SDG progress, become a global public necessity. Let me also mention the importance of a global net zero goal in this context. So far, the world is seeing generally national net zero plans, most of them by or around mid-century. But a few nations alone working on national net zero plans would not suffice. What we need to do is to expand these net zero deliberations and actions to the whole world and talk about how we can achieve global net zero together and commit to collective action towards them. Furthermore, the importance of reducing our dependence on fossil fuels and increasing the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix, including focusing on zero carbon fuels, such as green hydrogen, assume critical importance. In addition to finance and technology, the role of critical minerals and their supply chains, particularly for solar and green hydrogen, becomes vital. Despite its many energy transition challenges, India has adopted a forward-looking approach and is prioritizing global net zero, green hydrogen, and tripling of the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix by 2030. This is because we truly believe in preserving the environment as a global public good and doing everything possible to achieve it. In the same vein, I would like to highlight the importance of the G20 Common Framework for Debt Treatment, which has so far supported countries like Zambia, Chad, Ethiopia in addressing their debt problems. To bring about stable, steady, and inclusive economic growth, it is necessary to ensure that all countries together support those in vulnerable situations and suffering from debt distress. Today, no single country can grow in isolation from others. Economic downturn in one part of the world affects growth in the other. Therefore, a common framework where all creditor countries and institutions come together transparently in order to address the pockets of debt distress and agree on shared restructuring or financial package to support those distressed countries is increasingly important. Strengthening of a common framework promoting global economic growth should be thought of as a global public good. Similarly, reform of multilateral institutions so that they can reflect contemporary realities is important. In the last 78 years, the membership of the UN, created after the Second World War, has grown 4 times, from over 50 to nearly 200. Therefore, it is important to reform the United Nations and strengthen multilateral institutions, including international financial institutions, to make them more balanced and representative so that they can better address the needs of today's world. Pursuit of multilateral reforms is going to help us achieve global public goods, help us achieve global benefit. Let me now dwell upon one of our key priorities that the previous speaker also mentioned, digital technological transformation, in some detail, and how we have approached it from the perspective of promoting public good. Technology holds immense importance in today's highly interconnected digital world. New age digital public goods and bringing our communities and countries closer together. The Internet of Things and other digital technologies have converted the world into one big global digital family. Further, the digital revolution has profoundly impacted the nature and delivery of these public goods. Of late, many traditional public goods and services have transitioned into digital formats. Similarly, entirely new digital public goods have also emerged. Digital tools for knowledge and information, health, financial inclusion, cultural heritage preservation, open data initiatives, and platforms for global collaboration are some examples. Digital global public goods fundamentally emphasize inclusivity. They offer boundless opportunities for progress, prosperity, and inclusion of the marginalized and vulnerable sections by empowering them with the ability and providing them the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to society, thus leading to more inclusive socio-economic growth. By rapidly democratizing digital commons, India has become a unique role model for other countries. This year, India's G20 presidency offers a significant opportunity for us to share our growth story, a story of caring for all and taking collective action. India is utilizing digital public goods for the betterment of its citizens, ensuring that no one is left behind. Through digitalization in healthcare sector and COVID, we administered over 2.2 billion vaccine doses to our people. Anyone from any Indian city, irrespective of economic status or educational background, easily got an appointment and got vaccinated. COVID was a classic example of bringing inclusivity through digital public goods. Under the Jan Dhan Yojana, we have been able to include around 495 million people in the banking system. Around 300 million rupees have been directly transferred to citizens' bank accounts. We have generated 1.3 billion Aadhaar-led digital identities and extended the benefits of over 300 government schemes across 52 ministries to our citizens. The Government of India is empowering citizens by creating an enabling ecosystem through the Digital India Mission. The India Stack, a unified software platform, is a set of APIs and digital public goods that aim to unlock the economic benefits of digital identity, data, and payments at population scale. Its rapid adoption by billions of individuals and businesses has helped promote financial and social inclusion and position the country for the internet age. India is making a transition from a technology-poor to an innovation-rich society through DPI. The UPI, or the Unified Payment Interface, that the previous speaker also spoke about, has digitally empowered people from all walks of life. India is leading the digital payment space with 46% of global real-time payments and 90 million transactions that were conducted last year. While in a single month in May this year, we recorded 9.41 billion UPI transactions. In fact, UPI is progressively becoming a global attractive option to enable seamless cross-border transactions. UPI is currently available in 10 countries, and we have signed MOUs with a total of 13 countries to connect and integrate with UPI. During our G20 presidency, a common framework on digital public infrastructure is one of our lighthouse priorities. In fact, the DPI platform is the foundation on which the government, private sector, and civil society can further collaborate, innovate, and co-create specific innovative digital products for the benefit of the underrepresented sections of the society. In this context, we are also addressing barriers to digital inclusion posed by inadequate cybersecurity. Earlier this month, we successfully organized the first G20 conference on crime and security in the age of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, artificial intelligence, and metaverse, that deliberated upon sharing international cybersecurity standards and protocols and promote their interoperability and alignment to promote a safe and secure digital environment for all, from startups and industry to education and the social media. Thus, I would aver that the pursuit of global public good objectives has been the unique and overarching objective of India's G20 presidency. As one of my favorite comparisons that I always like to give is that the Indian presidency would not like to be like the three proverbial blind men who could not figure out the shape of an elephant when dealing with global economic or global problems. It's very important that we consider any challenge before us holistically in all its aspects and not come up with partial solutions based on narrow or parochial considerations. Whether it is green development, economic growth, climate action, energy transition, multilateral reforms, or climate technology, the pursuit of global public good objectives is central to Indian G20 presidency. And it is only apt that the theme of our presidency, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or One Earth, One Family, One Future, reflects this very approach. Friends, in this endeavor, civil society plays a huge role. It is heartening to see that Civil 20 Engagement Group has actively promoted sustainable lifestyles and living in harmony with the surrounding environment. Your endeavors such as technology advancement and capacity building, training initiative, and global internet governance, digital empowerment and security alliance highlight the socio-ethical and legal implications of emerging technologies. The path to an inclusive, harmonious, and sustainable world lies in our ability as informed citizens to harness the potential of global public goods based on human-centric values such as compassion, wisdom, respect, and empathy. In conclusion, I congratulate the Civil 20 for choosing this very important theme for today's session of global public goods. I also congratulate Civil 20 for a very successful summit so far and in finalizing a very substantive and forward-looking policy pack. It was my privilege to receive it yesterday from Civil 20. I can promise you of its utmost and most favorable consideration by the Government of India as the G20 presidency. And I would conclude by saying that global public good provides us with a narrative and a compelling argument which helps us rise above narrow, parochial, partial, commercial interests in dealing with global economic or even political challenges. It helps us mainstream and really focus upon the very essence of multilateralism and deliberations in the G20. I can only thank Civil 20 for its very valuable contributions towards our G20 presidency priorities and objectives, for your support in evangelizing some of India's achievements, and also providing a platform for learning from expertise and experiences of other countries, and for your support in further strengthening our public good-based approach in the G20 for addressing global challenges. I thank you and wish the Civil 20 all success in its future endeavors.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your words. This session has had three speakers, three very different speakers, showing the depth of all the discussion that we had in the working groups and how important it is to have broad discussions about being as a world, as one family. I don't know if I'm being innocent, but it's probably a coincidence or not, that in this panel we have represented here Indonesia, India, Brazil, and South Africa, the four countries who are the sequence of the G20 presidencies. Yeah. And it's a great opportunity to have four Global South countries conducting the G20 in sequence. It's important for us to let them know what we think and let them know how we feel from the South. We are now discussing here that the world is one family, and that's correct, but we have now this opportunity with C20 to tell our rich cousins that maybe the family doesn't have to be led by their priorities, that we can share this too. So it's very important that our 4 countries are represented in this session. Just before the thanks, the official thanks, and we close so we can go have lunch. That is also important. I'm just need to reinforce to all of you that at 2:10 p.m. sharply, we will start the 4th session, the 4th panel of our meeting, that is Resources Stewardship and Democratic Engagement, who will be hosted by my 2 great friends, Bini Bucciori and Guillermina Alanis. So please go have lunch. The food is great, but come back for the 4th panel, okay? Naila. Please.
I'll take a few moments to thank the chair, Mata Amrita Nandamai, for giving us the opportunity to come together. And Sherpa, thank you very much. And thank you, Amrita team, Dr. Bhavani Rao, and each and everyone who participated. My humble request to you all, if you carry out C20's message and make it your lifestyle, whatever policy is accepted is great, but if we manage to go by it, live by it, take it to our family, community, and to our organizations, that is what would be the actual effect of it. And we humbly request that we do it together. We are a larger family now. We have built many relationships, and the unity should be there together to carry it forward. Thank you very much.
Much, and we see each other after lunch, please.